very glad to see everyone here. I'm very glad to be a part of all this. So I am looking forward to seeing what we're doing very shortly doing this with you guys. Let me just really quickly share this now. Yeah, haha, there we go. Okay. Okay. So, it's good to see everyone here. I am really glad to see everyone here. And what we're doing today, we're looking at stomachic herbs or stomachic remedies and carminative remedies. Now, these remedies are some really fantastic things. They're excellent. I'm really glad that we're able to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started here. Of course, we've got to have a word of prayer first, as we always do. So yes, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer, and we will dive right on in. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your grace and for your mercy. Thank you for your infinite love and just everything that you do. Father in heaven, I ask, please, that you would be with us right now. Take our hearts and anoint them. Work in us, Lord, to become more like you. I ask, Lord, that you would please right now speak, that you would be uplifted, and that your wisdom would be heard and not any wisdom of man. Thank you so much. Please bring people, Lord, to see these things, I ask and I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Alrighty. Well, once again, it's good to see everyone. It's good to see everyone. Today, we're looking at stomachics and carminatives. These are two really important categories of natural remedies that are really significant for a large portion of the population. Now, something else to be note just before we kind of really begin here. I want to say, if you are on YouTube or on Facebook, please like and share. Get this stuff out there as much as you can. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, like my Facebook page, the King's Bard, and also the YouTube channel. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And of course, I am live on Twitch as well. So, good to see everyone here. We're looking at stomachics and carminatives. I want to dive right in. If you have a question, of course, you can ask it at any point by typing it into the chat. If you're in the Zoom call as well, you may be able to, or you'll be able to ask it directly. Now, of course, a quick disclaimer, the information in this presentation is for educational purposes only. It's not intended for the diagnosis, treatment, prevention, or cure of any disease. If you want to make any changes to your lifestyle, implement any natural remedies or regimen, or make any changes to any regimen, please consult with a qualified physician first. It's just the wise thing to do. So, relevant terms and information. This is something that I love to do and really important. Relevant terms and information. Infusions, decoctions, and syrups. An infusion, as usual, these are pretty common. An infusion is a preparation where boiling water is poured over herbs. A standard ratio for an infusion is 1 teaspoon of dried herb or 2 teaspoons of fresh herb to 1 cup of water. It's best if you leave it steeping for at least 20 minutes. So this is your standard tea kind of a thing, but it's called an infusion, and 20 minutes, not 5. A decoction is very similar, but not the same thing. It's a preparation where you're boiling the herbs in the water for 10 to 15 minutes instead of boiling the water and then pouring it over the herbs. The standard ratio for a decoction is the exact same as the ratio for an infusion, 1 teaspoon of dried or 2 teaspoons of fresh to 1 cup of water. A syrup is simply an infusion or a decoction that has then been reheated up and had sugar stirred in, right? So that the sugar is dissolved into it. It's really, it's quite useful for keeping things preserved. It's quite a useful thing. Now, standard ratio for making a syrup is 1 cup of sugar for every cup of liquid. So if you have 1 cup of water, 1 cup of liquid, 1 cup of sugar. 2 cups of liquid, 2 cups of sugar. Really simple, really easy, goes by volume, really simple. So, those are our relevant terms and information. Now, we must ask the question, what are stomachics and what are carminatives? Well, a stomachic or a stomachic, I've heard both. is a remedy that is strengthening and healing for the stomach and also the intestines, but mostly for the stomach, the major digestive organ. And a carminative is a remedy that helps to relieve stomach cramps and intestinal gas. So they're also antispasmodic herbs as well. So they also help with other things along that line. They are antispasmodic. Now, they're not muscle relaxers. They won't relax muscles, but they are antispasmodics as well. So keep that in mind. When I say a stomachic or a stomachic, it is a remedy that is strengthening and healing for the stomach. It may help build digestion, that kind of a thing. A carminative, on the other hand, is a remedy that helps to relieve stomach cramps and intestinal gas. So keep that in mind. Those are the definitions. Now, we have some herbs here that we're going to be looking at. Some different herbs. We've got 7, actually. Fennel, basil, or basil, anise, or anise, chamomile, agrimony, lemon balm, and dill. These herbs are really, really useful. They're really amazing, actually. And they're extremely beneficial, not just for the stomach alone or for the intestines alone. They're usually fairly beneficial for the whole system, and they have a wide range of uses. And some of them, actually, most of these, if not all of these, go all the way back. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I don't think I did dill. Oops. My bad. I realized I don't have dill in my PowerPoint. I apologize. So, yeah, sorry, scratch that one out. Let me change that. I apologize. So we have 6 herbs we're going to be going over today. So, fennel. Fennel is a very, very well, I shouldn't say it's popular. I know very few people who actually cook with it as a vegetable. It is fairly commonly paired with fish and some other things, but it really can stand on its own. It is a member of the carrot family, and as a natural remedy, it is most well known for its carminative effects. In fact, it's been known for that for a long time. The seeds in particular are what are used for natural remedies, but the herb itself, the plant, it has a bulbous root. You can see that here. On the picture, you can see the big bulbous stalk of the plant before each of these comes off. It's kind of like celery. You have these little tiny stalks coming off. They are shaped like celery, and it's a relative, so that makes sense. But you have this big old stalk, and it has a particularly a black licorice-ish flavor. It's not as strong as some others, like anise, but it does have it there. It's kind of a cross between, I would say personally, from when I've tasted it, it's kind of a cross between black licorice and celery. So it's actually quite good. It's very sweet. It's a great addition to salads and things like that. But when it comes to the actual herb itself, that is the natural remedy, the seeds are primarily what is used. It can be used as a seasoning in the diet or in an infusion. There are also some ancient remedies that I'm not too familiar with, some recipes for fennel water and some other things as well, or colic water they sometimes call it. And it's one of the major ingredients. And so I'm not familiar with those recipes, so that's why I didn't include it. But if you want to go and check that out, it is fennel water, colic water, something like that, very commonly used several centuries ago, at least, and probably going back a lot further than that. So fennel is very, very important. In fact, several members of the carrot family are here today. A couple members of the carrot family. Most members of the carrot family are, in fact, carminatives or stomachics. So, you'll see several of them here, but there are several more that I haven't listed that are also this same kind of a thing. Now, the next herb that we're looking at introduces the other major stomachic and carminative family. That's the mint family, and in particular, this herb is basil. Now, basil is a very, very well-known member of the mint family, very popular, especially in Italian cuisine, but it's so much more than just that. There's a whole lot more than mere Italian cuisine. Not that Italian cuisine is bad. I love Italian cuisine. It's great, but there's so much more that basil can be included in it. It's just an amazing plant. It is a carminative herb. It is also a bitter herb, like a lot of mints are, if not all mints. Most mints are also bitters, and so it's incredibly beneficial not only for expelling gas and such. It's also great for the digestion, and it's not an unpleasant tasting bitter. Again, like the like most members of the mint family, it is a bitter, yes, but it is a pleasant tasting bitter. At least less pleasant, less unpleasant, I should say, than um, some of the more outlandish um, bitter herbs like grapefruit or um, raw cacao or other things like that. Another common one, carob, raw carob, not roasted, raw carob, dandelion roots, and of course the bitter greens and such, like kale and so on. Those are very, very bitter, sometimes unpleasantly so. Basil is not. Basil is bitter, yes, but it is not unpleasantly bitter. In fact, it's quite pleasantly bitter. And so it is actually stimulating for the appetite, and it is a carminative as well, so it does help. In fact, it's one of its better known uses is to help relieve intestinal gas. But it is also a bitter herb, and it actually can be useful for stimulating the appetite. So you have it's a nice replacement. Many people will use black pepper as an appetite stimulant, and indeed that is very useful for that. But black pepper is very it can be harmful for the stomach lining, for the mucosal membranes there. It's very, very powerful, very, very strong. I would use it only in more extreme cases of a lack of appetite. Otherwise, I would have no problem at all with just using basil as a nice, wonderful appetite stimulant. Now, again, you can see here on the picture, it can grow quite thick. It is a very nice herb. I particularly like it. It has, again, kind of a black licorice-y, reminiscent flavor. But it's more than that. It's very aromatic, which was one of the reasons why it's carminative. Um, and it's the reason that, or because it is aromatic, one of the best uses that you can have it in is as a juice. Now, I don't recommend getting like, a quart of this stuff or even a pint of this stuff and chugging it down. At most, like 6 ounces or a couple shots. I would say even more so, just a couple shots would be all that you need. But basil is very, very useful juiced, especially with aromatic herbs, especially with mints. The juice in particular is useful because you're not heating it up like you are in an infusion, but you're still reducing it down. You're getting rid of the fiber and everything else, and you're just concentrating it. And so it is very useful to have it juiced. Many herbs are this way, but especially the aromatic mints in particular. Of course, you can use it in the diet. You can chop it up, put it in your salads. It's very popular to do so in several in certain cultures. What is that? Tabbouleh, if I remember right. At least the tabbouleh recipe that I had a couple of years ago was chock full of parsley and basil and mint and, oh goodness, I don't know how many other aromatic herbs were in there. There was no lettuce. There was no there was no lettuce, no kale, no spinach, nothing like that. It was all what we would consider aromatic herbs. It was good. I've never had anything like it. Yeah, it was really good. But you can use basil as an infusion. I will say it is also a warming herb, and so, it does have a tendency to warm you up, to feel warm, unlike mint, which is a cooling herb. So you may not necessarily want basil in the summer, in at least places of a Mediterranean climate like where I'm from, or should I say a Mediterranean desert climate where I'm from. You don't want that, so instead you're going to want something that's more along the lines of peppermint for that. And peppermint is also a carminative, by the way. I didn't include it because I've used it so much. I've listed it so many times, but peppermint is also an aromatic. And so you might, a carminative, and so you can use that instead. But basil is very well known as a carminative, and it is also just a wonderful herb. And so I highly recommend basil. It's just amazing. Now, anise or anise. It is one of my favorite herbs taste-wise. It is extremely popular in some countries, and its use can be traced back well before even Roman times. As a matter of fact, the Romans used to, it was actually anise or anise that gave rise to the tradition of the wedding cake, because the Romans would make a small cake flavored with anise or aniseed, and they would use that, and it's a very, very powerful what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very powerful black licorice flavor. It's extremely naturally sweet, but it doesn't have the same constituents that black licorice does that raise your blood pressure. It has other constituents, and so don't recommend its use frequently. It yeah, I don't recommend its frequent use, but and it is quite strong too. It's quite powerful, so I wouldn't recommend it being used frequently. But it is a very nice and sweet herb, and it's quite powerful for as a carminative and as an appetite stimulant, just like peppermint. Once again, or just like basil, excuse me. I do want to say as well that this is a member of the carrot family once again. I have not seen any pictures of the actual herb, but that's okay because it is exclusively the seeds that are useful for natural remedies and herbs. Anise is a very useful carminative, very powerful, and also a strong appetite stimulant, as I said before. Now, you can use anise in a syrup. You can make a syrup out of it. You could make a syrup out of basil too. I haven't done that, but you could. I have made syrup out of anise, and you can, indeed, many people have candied it. It was a very popular candy way back when. In fact, there's a particular Scottish folk song that can trace its origins all the way back to a candy seller who was trying to sell his candy. He wrote one of the first jingles all the way back in the 1800s. You can, of course, also use this as an infusion. Again, I would be cautious with using it as such, as very strong. I wouldn't use a whole lot. I wouldn't use a whole lot of it. I wouldn't use this much. I would probably use... Oh, let's see. I'd probably use half a teaspoon at most, and probably less than that. Well, actually, no. 1 ounce. 1 ounce. 1 ounce of the seeds, just like anything else. 1 ounce of the seeds would work fine. You can, of course, also use these to season. They make a quite nice seasoning in a lot of different dishes. And of course, because these are stomachic or carminative herbs, you can use these things to help your meals be digested more effectively, and that way it's just you're not relying on these herbs. You're not taking any kind of remedial action from it. You're not forcing your body to rely upon the remedial action, but your body is. These things are naturally helping your body to do these things. And so using it in the diet is a really great way to do it. You can use it as seasoning for sweet dishes. Some people will use it sometimes for savory dishes, just like fennel. But there are a bunch of other things that people can use it for as well. There's plenty of information out there on what to use anise for, as far as for cooking. So anise, and again, it's one of my favorite flavors. I personally really enjoy it. So, yeah, I personally really enjoy it. Once again, I want to reiterate, if you have a question at any point, you may ask it in the chat, whether it's on the Facebook chat or YouTube or on Twitch. I really am looking for, I really like to have questions. So if you have a question at any point, please ask it. I am open to answering questions. I love to answer questions. So if you have a question at any point, please say it in the chat, and I will do my best to get to it, well, when I see it, which I should see it right away because it's right over here for me. Okay. Chamomile. Hey, look, chamomile's back. Um, as it says on the slide, chamomile is extremely versatile. It is one of the most commonly most commonly known herbs in the world. It is in both, at least in the Western world, it is one of the most commonly known. Everyone knows, you take chamomile tea, it helps you sleep, right? Most people know that, and that's true. But it is so much more than just a sleepy tea, right? It is something. It's extremely versatile. It is anxiolytic and spasmolytic, which means that it helps. It's an antispasmodic, spasmolytic, and antispasmodic are the same thing. So it helps stop contractions and things like that, or spasms of the muscles and such. It helps relax, which is again why it's part of the stomachics and the carminatives. And it's also anxiolytic, which means it helps deal with anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder. In fact, some studies are now showing that chamomile is very useful for dealing with generalized anxiety disorder in particular. Not more severe anxiety attacks and such. At that point, that doesn't work. You need something a little stronger to deal with that. Cognitive behavioral therapy and such is especially useful. And that's not really in my scope of things. But chamomile is going beyond those spasmolytic and anxiolytic properties. It is very useful as a stomachic. It's a bitter herb, just like most of these, if not all of these. I think all of these may actually be bitters. It is a member of the dandelion family or the daisy family. As you can see, it looks very much like a daisy. You can see right here, looks very much like a daisy. Let's see here. I want to, okay. Let me see about that. Okay, thank you. Alrighty, sorry. Anyway, it is an extremely versatile herb that has just so much to use for. You can use it in the diet. I do. It's a great herb, fantastic herb. You can use it in the diet, and you can also use it in an infusion. So this is a very, very useful herb, a very, very wonderful herb, actually. And yeah, it's a very, very wonderful herb. If you have a question, please leave it in the chat. Don't hesitate. Leave it in the chat. Other than that, I must go on and get on with this. Now, actually, one of the recipes that I have for chamomile is it's chamomile oatmeal cookies. Now, they're very, very good. I do see those comments in the chat, by the way, and I don't normally answer them. That kind. If you have a question, I have no problem with that. But other than that, I don't really. If you have a question, please ask. Please don't hesitate to ask it. And I am doing fine, thank you. Now, my chamomile oatmeal cookies are very simple, very easy. I will hopefully get the chance to make them. I might put them on my YouTube channel. So I might do that. Yes, I'm hoping I'll be able to do that. Now, agrimony is a very, very, shall I say, it's not as well known in the United States where I am. It's not as well known, but it is useful. It is more well known in the United Kingdom. As a matter of fact, it's a very common herb there, and it's. I don't know if it grows in the eastern United States. I'll be honest. I'm on the western half, so you know, I don't know. But I do know that that it is very, very, very useful. It's a member of the rose family. It's the only member of the rose family that I see here. Actually, that's on here. Because the rose family isn't usually tonic or, well, it isn't really much of either tonic or antispasmodic or anything of that nature. However, agrimony is tonic, and it's tonic in particular to the digestive system. It tones and strengthens the stomach, and precisely because it's a member of the rose family. Rose family members happen to be astringent. Most of them, if not all of them, are astringent. You do have a few exceptions, like, well, no, actually, no. I don't know of any exceptions, come to think of it. Most members of the rose family are rather they're rather astringent, so that means they toughen and they tighten and they dry out the mucous membranes. So this is it's very, very nice, very, very useful for this. Now, um, it means that it's very good for the stomach itself. Something else that agrimony does in particular is that it promotes the assimilation of nutrients. So, and again, black pepper is very similar to that. Black pepper will do that, but black pepper is stronger and it's more irritating to the mucous membranes. And so you want to be careful with black pepper because actually some studies have shown that it will actually cause your stomach to start bleeding and in some cases cause what's known as gastric cell exfoliation, which is where your cells cells in your stomach lining literally burst and dump their contents into the stomach acid. So now that's not your stomach bursting, that's just the little tiny cells that line your stomach that usually produce the stomach acid. The stomach acid kind of gets through the protective mucus layer and it starts damaging the actual cells of the stomach lining. And now that's with black pepper. You won't get that with agrimony and you won't get that with basil. Black pepper has the same principle, the same basic fundamental things as black pepper and basil and agrimony have the same basic principles. That is, it promotes assimilation of nutrients and it also stimulates the appetite. But if you combine agrimony and basil, you get those things without the real, super negative effects of black pepper. Now, that being said, do I say that black pepper is not useful? No. There are cases where black pepper is very useful, but I don't recommend it in the diet. I don't recommend eating it all the time. I recommend eating it in cases where you have severe appetite suppression or severe malnutrition, that kind of a thing, where you just really need to get nutrients in. And black pepper is just way quicker to put in, way quicker to have. You can have it right in the food. You can't really do that with agrimony. And because agrimony, again, you really are only going to use it as an infusion or a decoction in this case. And so it is particularly useful. Black pepper would be very useful if you really want that quick delivery of nutrients, or the quick and a quicker and more easily accessible, I guess, way of accessing these nutrients. So to that I would say black pepper is useful, but not for general use. I would go first to agrimony, a combination of agrimony and basil, before I go to black pepper. Now, again, you're going to want to use the leaves and the root in this. The flowers, I haven't really seen any uses for that. But the leaves and the root are what you're going to be mainly using, and you would use either as an infusion or a decoction. Usually, it would be the leaves that you're infusing and the root that you're decocting, but the leaves are, how shall I say this? The reason that you don't need it with agrimony, right, is because agrimony is not an agrimony is not a oh, what's the term I'm looking for? It's not an aromatic herb. Agrimony is not an aromatic herb, and so you're not going to lose anything by boiling the leaves like you would with peppermint or with basil or something like that. So when it comes to these things, when it comes to agrimony in particular, the leaves and the root are very useful in either an infusion or a decoction. In fact, a strong decoction is used for other things besides that, but especially internally. So agrimony, again, not very common in the United States, at least from what I have seen. I have I think I have found it on my herb suppliers, but it's not something that I have found very often recommended by American herbal sources. Um, so, do with that what you will. Do your own research, and if you can find it, fantastic. So, lemon balm. Lemon balm. The last of our herbs. Lemon balm is very wonderful. It's a wonderful herb. It's not as strong as peppermint. I actually, it's about as strong. I would say maybe a little less so. Probably closer to the strength of catnip. But it doesn't have as much essential oil. It is a carminative, just like all members of the mint family, or most members of the mint family, and it is very useful for the stomach. It actually grows up in just to the north of where I live in California. It's very, very useful. Or it grows up there. I've been up in Northern California. I am, and I've actually just plucked it off of the trail and eaten it right there. It's really, really nice. It has a very nice lemony taste. But very quickly it loses it, and I wouldn't recommend using it dried because it very quickly loses its actual scent. It's not pleasant. So use it fresh when you can. It doesn't have as I said, it doesn't have as much essential oil, so it's not as irritating for the stomach in case or for the bowels. If you have gastric reflux or something like that, peppermint is not the way to go because the essential oil can irritate the sphincter even more. So if you have GERD or something like that, peppermint is not really something you should go to. Lemon balm doesn't have as much essential oil, catnip as well, and so those herbs are also useful for are more useful because they're not as irritating to the stomach or to the, in particular, to the gastroesophageal sphincter. You can use it as a juice, just like most members of the mint family, and you can also use it in an infusion. Once again, it does still have essential oil. It's not devoid of it. It still has a smell. It's just much less strong. And so an infusion is still better. You're not going to boil this. You're not going to decoct it. You're going to infuse it, and then or juice it. Either one works. And again, it's not as strong as peppermint, but I still wouldn't recommend chugging down a cup of it or something. At most, a couple shots of it. So lemon balm, very, very useful, wonderful herb, and beneficial not just for the stomach, but also for the nerves. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and turn away from, how shall I say, turn away from the herbs. Not that I have anything against herbs. After all, I've spent quite a long time talking about them, but I do want to spend a little bit more time on not just herbal remedies in particular, but other remedies as well, hydrotherapy in particular. Hydrotherapy, again, is just for those of you who may not know or who may not be aware, hydrotherapy is it's a kind of it's also known as hydropathy, and it's a system of natural remedies that uses water, in particular, different temperatures of water, mainly, to produce different helpful and healing effects on the body. Now, I do want to say as well that it is very powerful, and it's most useful if you are more aware of what's going on. If you know more about the body and that sort of thing, it's most useful in that sense. But if you know just the simple things, then it's easy enough to do it without a huge, great knowledge. It's a little bit more complex and in-depth than herbal remedies, I do have to say, but it's still very useful. Now, when it comes to hydrotherapy or hydropathy, when it comes to hydropathic applications, a cold compress before a meal really, really helps. In fact, Dr. Kellogg, the one in particular that I base my research on, he's really scientific when it comes to his hydrotherapy. His theology, not so much, but his hydrotherapy is good. And he recommended an ice pack actually, right over the stomach, right before a meal, and then a warm or hot compress after a meal also works, or a fomentation will also work. Now, what you see in this picture here happens to be fomentations. And in this case, you've got fomentations with hot foot bath in addition, although that's not necessary, but you can do that. Fomentations, again, is where you have lie down. You can see here, he's got a fomentation, which is a cloth, a thick cloth, about a quarter of an inch thick, eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch thick, flannel. Actually, I think it's an eighth of an inch thick. That's been wrapped in a wool blanket or something similar and laid down here, and then he's laid down on top of that. And in this case, what she's doing is she's giving him an ice rub. But another one of these is normally placed on top of the chest and is left to sit there. The man is covered, or the individual is covered with blankets and left to sit there for several minutes, for 3 minutes in particular. And then it's taken off. An ice scrub is sometimes used, although not in this case. When it comes to after a meal, you don't want an ice scrub. But what you would do, except maybe at the very end of it, but once you've finished with the fomentations, with that fomentation, the 3 minutes, then you switch it out, and you leave it for 30 seconds or so, and then put it back on, right? So you would just refresh every 3 minutes or so the fomentations. Now again, these are very thick cloths that have been steamed. They're not. You could microwave them, I guess, but you usually what you would do is you would have them rolled up into a little cylinder, and then you would put them in a canning pot with a canning rack, and on the bottom, and the canning rack keeps them up out of the water. You could also use a giant vegetable or tamale steamer or something like that, and then what will happen is it'll steam the cloth itself, get it really hot, and then you take it out with tongs, safety, and then unroll it, wrap it up in a wool blanket, and then roll that up. The wool blanket keeps it insulated, and then you apply it to the individual. It's quite pleasant. I've done them myself, although I've never had them done for me. So fomentation's very useful. A compress is just a hot washcloth or an ice pack or a heat pack that you put on. That's a compress. Very simple, not hard to understand. So again, you would do fomentations on the chest. In particular, if you're wanting to really target, then you would have a thinner cloth applied directly over the epigastrum, the area of the stomach here, but you don't really need to do that. I wouldn't use fomentations very regularly after a meal, except to aid in digestion in the beginning. But this all is in context of something that I want to talk about, and that is the best stomachic and the best carminative. Those, in particular, those remedies, well, that's simple. The temperate, whole foods, plant-based diet, plenty of water, plenty of sleep, and plenty of exercise. It is the single best and most important thing that you can do for your system. Yeah, if you don't do this, then all the herbs, all of the other stuff is just completely worthless. It's totally worthless. You don't want any part of it. And so all of those herbs, put them in the context of lifestyle change. All of that, those hydrotherapy applications, hydropathic applications. Yeah, again, context of put it in the context of a lifestyle change. This is not something that you're doing to, how shall I say? It's not something that you're doing to just kind of get over a bad diet, right? This is something to help you while you're making these changes, because a whole foods plant-based diet, temperate whole foods plant-based diet, is going to be the best thing to getting your stomach back to where it needs to be. And of course, also keep in mind that everyone's body is a little different. So the same foods for some may not be beneficial for other people, right? Personally, I can eat just about anything. And I choose to eat just about anything when it comes to plants. Right? I have a very diverse palate. I'm willing to eat just about anything. not everyone's that way, and I'm able to use most of it. I'm able to survive off just about everything, but not everyone's the same way. So keep that in mind. Um, Plenty of water, plenty of sleep, plenty of exercise. Those things are also beneficial, especially plenty of water. I myself am behind on my water for today. I've only drank a half gallon today instead of a full gallon, and that's for me. It is warm here where I live, so I think I might be rubbing and making unpleasant noises for y'all. Sorry. But yes, this is my water bottle. As you can see, it's still just over half full. This is a full gallon. I need to be drinking more water. Now, that being said, I do want to say once again that this is the best thing that you can do. This is the absolute best thing that you can do. Please, 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 please. Please do this. If, again, consult with your physician beforehand, but please do this. Please do this. Any other changes that you do will be completely moot unless you do this. So this just will not, unless you do this, nothing else is going to be really beneficial. So you got to make these changes under supervision. But make these changes. You will feel better, provided you follow, you do them wisely, right, under the care of a qualified physician who knows what they're talking about, who knows what they're doing, and who agrees with this, right? Get someone who knows about these. Preferably someone who's graduated from the College of Lifestyle Medicine, if you can find one. So that's good. So yes, that is everything that I have for you today. So I want to really quickly pose this to the chat. Are there any questions at all from either the chat or from the Zoom? I'll give chat a few moments to do that. So I'll turn to the Zoom for a moment. Is there anyone who has any questions from the Zoom? Yes.
You did mention something being good for the esophagus, but it's also beneficial for the large intestine. These herbs.
Yes, all of these are beneficial for both of those, for the
Okay.
digestive system, yeah.
Okay, and you can find these in teas also, right?
Yes, you can find
Vegan.
them. Yes, you can find them in teas. You can find them in the grocery store aisle. Most of them, agrimony maybe not, but you can find them for the most part there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alrighty. I'm not seeing anything from stream, so I'm going to guess there's probably not a whole lot of questions from stream. Um, I'm hoping that there will be more questions soon. So I think we're going to go ahead and just about wrap it up here, seeing as we are coming close to this. It is 7:49. I do want to say really quickly, I do want to say, if you are watching this for the first time, please comment if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you're watching via Facebook, like the page, share the video. Please get this stuff out there as much as possible. Like my page as well. Once again, the YouTube channel and the Facebook page, and also my Twitch is the King's Bard. The King's Bard, and I am working on getting some new stuff out there, some music and things like that. I'm hoping to do some storytelling stuff as well, looking at not just sacred history as far as like the big things that I've been doing, but doing smaller bite-sized, stories and things like that. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that as well. So there are some changes coming, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to implement them soon. I will be getting videos up on my YouTube channel as well. I get shorter videos maybe on each kind of herb and things like that, and ultimately maybe different families and things like that. So anyway, that being said, once again, if you are watching via any of these, please like, comment, subscribe, share, everything that you can do. If you're watching via the pre-recorded video, greetings. I am more than happy to answer any of your questions, anything like that. If you're on YouTube, please, please, please comment. Ask your questions. I will do my very best to answer them. If you're watching via the Facebook, the pre-recorded video, and then please comment, message me, message my page. Again, the King's Bard. And yes, I'm really looking forward to that. I look forward to hearing from everyone. And if you're watching Twitch, again, get it out there, share, maybe get some other people involved in this. I'm fairly new to Twitch. I don't know how y'all get it out there, but please get this stuff out there. It needs to be out there. Anyway, that being said, I think that's about everything that we have for today. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and end it here with a word of prayer. So we will go ahead and do that. Let us all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you once again for everything you have done. Thank you for, most importantly, for the gift of Jesus Christ. But Lord, thank you also that you have given the herb for the use of man, that these things are beneficial for us, that they are helpful, that they are wonderful things that you have given us. And so I ask, Lord, that you would please be with us, that you would fill us with your Spirit, that you would give us wisdom to know how to use these simple things that you have given. And not just the herbs, Lord, but the hydrotherapy as well, the simple water that just does so much as a beneficial agent for you. Lord, please be with us and keep us until we should meet again. Thank you very much. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray and ask these things. Amen. I want to say as well, on Sabbaths, Saturdays at 10 o'clock, we do have our normal sacred history, and at 11:15 we have our Bible study. I am thinking of changing those times, but that is for the future. For now, those are the times. Again, sacred history at 10 o'clock on Saturdays, Sabbaths, and at 10 o'clock in the morning. And at 11:15 in the morning, we will have our Bible study. So anyway, I hope to see you then, and thank you very much, everyone. I will see you.